everyone. Welcome back to Pass Pod episode 3. Today I'm not with Zach. He's again on his honeymoon. I have Andy with me today. I'm just gonna give the floor Andy for him to introduce himself real quick.
What's up? My name's Andy. I've known Braden and Zach pretty much my whole life. Buckeyes fan and a Packers fan, and I'm excited to talk about the league today.
All right, that's Andy for you. We're gonna do the same breakdown, kind of how I did by myself last week. We have top 5 games slash moments from last week, and then we'll go right into predictions for week 3. And I'll start off with our Thursday night football game with Eagles Vikings. Now this game, I think
It
the
was
final
weird.
score, it was 27-24, I think, if I'm
hmm
right. I know it was a 3-point game or one possession.
Okay.
It didn't feel like it though. It always felt like the Eagles were in control. If the Vikings brought it back, the Eagles just brought it right back up, whether it was thrown to Devontae Smith for a touchdown or something. Um, Kirk Cousins, it's just he played well last week. I'll do that. He had a little shaky week 1. He bounced back, but I don't know. Just the inconsistency of the Vikings, man. They're not really playing
Yeah.
consistent throughout a game. And I mean, the Eagles are 2-0, but I thought they'd be a lot more dominant than they were, especially against the Patriots. And the Vikings, they were in control of the game, but I felt like they could have been up a lot more. Um, but yeah, that's just my take on that. The Vikings, I don't think, even though they're on 2, I don't think they're done yet, but like they need to start picking it up, I think.
No, I'd agree with you. So the final for that game was 34-28 Eagles, and it
Oh,
did not feel like it at all. I mean, it was just the Eagles. Like they had a drive where I think it was 16 plays and they ran the ball for 12 and they did the QB sneak, uh, QB push twice. Um, so I mean, my main thing I learned from that game was just I don't see a better offensive line than Philly's got right now. I
yeah, I
mean,
mean,
if you look at it across the board, they're veterans, so I mean, time wise, they're getting there, but they've got at least 2 years left, at least for Kelsey and Lane Johnson. Those are the older guys, I believe. And I don't really see them slowing down. I think Hurts, I still think he's good. I think he needs to get into a better rhythm. The Vikings aren't a slouch team though. We got to remember they were like 13-3 last year. Um, Made the playoffs, lost to the Giants at home, which just sucks. I mean, I don't know how you do that. Uh, but yeah, my second takeaway from that game was really just like you said earlier, Braden, just with Kirk, kind of that inconsistency. We've seen him before. He's a veteran quarterback, but I think Justin Jefferson's wasting his time right now. I mean, he had he had a pretty solid game. He had that out of the end zone touchback, which we gotta discuss that. But I just I'm worried about their future because Kirk's on an expiring contract, and this I mean, unless they make a good playoff run this year, this just seems like a kind of blow it all up and start over situation.
yeah. One thing I do want to point out is, unlike other quarterbacks, so like Kirk Cousins is like holding himself accountable, I would say though.
Yeah, that's true.
Like
That's true.
I was watching clips of his, I don't know, post game, or it was early this week, where he was like he blamed the Justin Jefferson fumble on himself. He was like, yeah, I could have made a better throw that would have put him in stride, that wouldn't have put
Right.
him in that situation. So like I like
Yeah,
that
that's
he's
just a pro.
taking accountability. He's being a captain. That's what he's doing. He knows
Right.
that he needs to play better, and he's putting it on himself as a leader to do that. And that's like it's the thing. And then bring him that Justin Jefferson fumble. I mean, it's just unlucky. Are you not a fan of the
It's
touchback
unlucky.
rule,
No,
or
I love the touchback rule because I think it really makes you think like it adds a level of like fun to the league because I was listening to Jason and Travis Kelsey's podcast and how they were talking about they're talking about it and they were both fans of it. And I'm a fan of it because it just adds like a level of like, oh man, like he didn't get it. Like he kind of like if you looked at it in fast, like in full speed, it looks like he almost reached out and chucked the ball, but it kind
Yeah,
of just got stripped, and it was just an unfortunate event for them. But it's like it's a game changer, really.
yeah. 'Cause I mean that would have put him right. I don't. It was right before half. Uh,
Yeah, there was
I
like 30 seconds left in the
yeah, and
half.
it ended up costing him. But yeah. Like I said, I like how Kirk's acting. I mean, needs to play a little bit better, but I like the
Right.
way he's addressing the situation, as I would say.
Yeah, he's handling it very well. He's obviously aware some stuff needs to change, but the Eagles were in the Super Bowl last year. They were the
Yeah,
NFC Championships, and they played a damn good game in the Super Bowl last year. That was one of the better Super Bowls we've had in recent memory, you know? So I just think that if you think about that in like that context, I think the Vikings they'll be fine. But the NFC North, it's gonna be fun this year. I think it's really gonna be a fun division to watch.
yeah,
All right, so another game this week. I mean, really, there was so many good games this week. Um, but your boys, Bengals and Ravens,
yeah.
I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about them. Here's why. Um, the Ravens didn't go anywhere. Lamar Jackson was just hurt. Everybody discounts the Ravens because they're like, oh, Lamar's not a quarterback. Lamar's not. Shut up. He's an elite quarterback. If you were starting a franchise, you'd probably rather take Lamar Jackson over a lot of guys. And he was back. The Ravens are good. I don't know why people are like, they're acting like the Bengals lost to like the Washington Wizards or something, like some terrible team. Like that's a good team. That's a playoff team. I think that they have a legitimate chance of making the playoffs this year, both the Bengals and the Ravens. I think those two are going to be running the AFC North, and I think that's gonna that's
That's
gonna
good.
play out.
Yeah,
Zach's gonna kill me. But listen, let's look at this. When have the Browns ever really done that? Like, when have the
that's the
Browns
whole.
ran that division?
Yeah, we won't
And
get into that.
we don't
But
need to get into that
uh,
yet because
yeah,
there's also points that now after Monday, it's like, how good are the Browns?
yeah.
Um,
But going back to Bengals Ravens, I got two things on it. The Ravens shocked me offensively. I don't know if you watched much of that Texans game,
yeah,
but I mean, again, everyone played bad week one. It
yeah,
wasn't
week
perfect
one
football,
is
but they came out and I was like, man, the Bengals can't get a stop, and our defense is usually respectable. Respectable. I mean, the Bengals offense. I mean, our first touchdown was a punt return. That was our only touchdown in the first half. We scored two in the second, but like it was Bengals. We need to play better on both sides of the ball. Bengals do. Yet
yeah,
I'm not. I'm a little bit concerned just because we're 0-2 again, and I don't like that feeling. But I know what happened last year. We turned it around pretty quick. It's just, it's
yeah,
I. It's like this sick feeling myself because we could have won that game. It's just it was with our defense not being able to get off the field, which give credit to the Ravens for that, and just the Bengals offense for being inconsistent a little bit until the second half, and by then it was kind of too late.
yeah. I agree with that. I think another like my second point really with that game was Burrow. That is like it's interesting because he's not 100%, but he also has not been. He's not looked like the Joey B we all know and love.
Yeah, and he's
So,
now the highest paid QB in history, so
right.
he needs to start stepping up.
Well, yeah,
Everyone's
and it's
already
just
hating on
like,
him.
yeah, you get that bag. It was a little too close to the season, I think. The Bengals needed to sign that about a month ago and get it out of people's heads that he's the highest paid or let some other dude become the highest paid because it's like every other day the next quarterback that gets a contract extension is the highest paid in the league.
Yeah, even Mahomes just got his restructured.
Yeah, he got his restructured. because he was on a bargain for a while if you really went and looked at it, which is crazy to say at like what $50 million a year was a bargain. But that's just the state of today's NFL and the market. So yeah.
Yeah. Then going kind of quarterbacks kind of just ties into this third game. Commanders versus Broncos. I mean, Broncos last year, obviously know with Hackett, they had a terrible year, and they're off to a terrible start again. 0-2. Now, in the first three games, we have three 0-2 teams, and this is the one I'm most concerned about because they've lost to the Raiders, who just got mollywopped by the Bills, and then they just Commanders, who they blew like a 18-point lead in the second half. And I mean, it came down to where they needed a lucky Hail Mary to make it a 1-2
Which was
point game.
insane. That was a
Yeah.
crazy play.
But
I,
like
I enjoyed that.
Pat, the defense looked out of sync in that second half. They didn't look like and the offense looked out of sync. So I think it's just for me, it just looked like the chemistry at this point. Because I mean, Commanders were doing it, especially in the second half. They were doing anything they wanted to. They wanted to run, they were running. If
Yeah.
they wanted to throw, they wanted to throw. And they really controlled that whole second half, even when they were down at the beginning of it. And that's what allowed them to win. It got to the point where the Broncos needed a lucky play, which they got. But like, if they would have came
And
back and
then
won
they
that
got
game,
a bad
I still
call.
would have had the same analysis because of how they looked before that, just because of how
Yeah.
lucky that was. I mean, it just got tipped in the air till till someone caught it. I mean,
Yeah, it was absolutely insane, but it's almost more insane to say that that game even needed that because I went back and watched the highlights and the Broncos were having their way for a while. It was
they
21 to
were
3 at half, I believe, and I was like, you mean to tell me that the Commanders won this game by 2 points and the Broncos were the ones that had to throw the Hail
yeah.
Mary? Nuts. I with that Hail Mary though, I think we had some pre pass content up there. Looked like some pass interference on that 2 point conversion.
Oh,
But
yeah, but the
you
Broncos,
have that
they
and
never
you
should have
can't
been in that situation in the
they
first
never
place. So
should have
I
been
don't
in
even
that
care that
situation.
much. It's just one thing I do want to say quickly is point out this is Eric, the one Chiefs old offense coordinator now is now the
The enemy.
Commanders offense. Yeah, I can never say his last name, but he's played really well, and this is the first time they've scored 35 points in like multiple years.
Right, yeah. He's
But
coaching
like
really well, I
it's
believe
he's
also.
like and with which we'll get to later, Chiefs have been struggling on offensive end, so you kind of are seeing the difference with him not being at Kansas City, and you're obviously seeing the difference with him being in Washington. So yeah, that's just one thing I wanted to point out before we moved on.
Yeah. I think a huge takeaway is Sam Howell looked pretty solid. Like he looked like an NFL quarterback in that game. And when you don't need you're obviously not really gonna find another Mahomes, at least today. Um, so for Bieniemy to have a guy who's like, okay, this guy can make the throws, he can make the reads, he can get out of the pocket a little bit. He had some questionable decisions when it came to getting out of the pocket and maybe like just taking sacks. There was a couple I thought he could have tried to scramble out of. He had one, I believe, one questionable throw that I was like, I don't know why he tried to get that. Um, but other than that, it looked good. And then for the Broncos, I think if they don't at least make the playoffs, I think Russ is done
Oh,
because he's aging. And I know you have Peyton, and I know you have a new coach in this new system, but this new system, they advertised it as plug and play. And that's not what we've seen. That's what we saw for a minute, the first half of this game. But I don't know. He's aging. So to me, that one's just like one of those one of those question marks that's just like it's kind of like, are they gonna move on from him? Are they going to uh keep trying to go?
yeah,
But
yeah, we'll
we
see
shall
that.
see.
Yeah, only time will tell with that one.
And then on, I guess, kind of as we have kept segueing into the quarterback position, Patriots and Dolphins. Mac Jones is not great. Mac Jones is not good. Mac Jones might be mediocre. All right. Uh, he made some. He decided to throw some passes that I did not see the vision on. Um, and it was just like, what are we doing out here, Mac? That was kind of crazy, to me. And then I think Tua looked really good,
Yeah,
that game.
Tua Tua's played really well these first 2 weeks of the
Yeah,
season.
I think the Dolphins are a fun team. I think that, obviously McDaniel, he's a pretty good coach. Um, so honestly, I believe that the Dolphins are set. And this one might be a hot take. I don't know how you're feeling about this, but I believe the Dolphins are going to win the AFC East this year.
Okay.
I think
Pate
they can notch the Bills off the top of that throne. And I also want them to because the Bills just in the playoffs, they just haven't. I mean, I know 2 years ago they had that Kansas City overtime that changed the rules, which was a good change. But it's just like, I don't know, man. We'll see. We
yeah.
will see.
My take on the Patriots Dolphins is that I mean, yeah, Dolphins have looked amazing these first 2 weeks, pretty much all around. Patriots, Mac Jones, question mark there. We'll see how he goes, but I mean, one
Yeah.
thing you didn't highlight is the reason I put this on this list is one the great field goal block where
Yeah.
the one gunner came out
The,
from nowhere. He lined up basically on the sideline and got
it
a
was
head
nuts.
start, so he was going full steam. And then the offensive lineman that should have gotten the first down.
He should
I
have got
don't.
the
He
first
was
down.
like an inch short, man. Like
Oh,
if
that's
at
when
all,
you
there
just need
should
to
be a.
say
You need to say the
it's
place
football.
stands. Yeah.
It's football. We're rolling with it. That's what you need to do in that situation because honestly, looking at it on paper, the Patriots should not have been in that game. Now, do I think the Patriots are bad? No. I think the Patriots are going to figure it out. Um, I think they'll figure it out. I think either Mac
And
Jones comes into form this year, which I really hope happens, um, or something else because you can't really count out Belichick. He's always got something up his sleeve, it seems.
and one thing I would like to point out is the Patriots have played two really good
Yeah,
teams in Eagles and
they've
Dolphins,
played very
and they've
close
played both of
games
them to the wire. So it's not like they're getting blown out or anything. They played better than I thought they would these past 2 games. Yeah,
for
but
sure.
yeah, Patriots. They're I mean they're 0-2, so they obviously need to get stuff together.
They
But
need
we'll
to win
see
a
how that
game.
goes.
They need
Yeah.
to win a game.
Like
Quite
most of
frankly,
all
that's
four of these teams on this list need to win a game. So,
yeah,
yeah. And then the last one I'm talking about, it's not really a game. It's just something I want to touch on before we get into predictions. And it's running back injuries. They've
yeah.
gone like it's been all over the sport recently. I mean, we have Eckler, Barkley, Chubb, uh, Aaron
Aaron
Jones.
Jones,
Yeah,
yeah,
everyone's getting hurt, and I just like it's just weird because we're seeing all these star running backs getting lost by these teams. Like, I mean, the Packers have AJ Dillon, the Browns just had Kareem Hunt, but I mean, the Giants, I don't know who they have. I couldn't tell you.
someone,
Yeah,
someone. I hope
and Eckler, I mean the Joshua Kelly, I think is his name for the Chargers. Didn't look that impressive, but yeah, it's just weird because I mean I don't know if Brees Hall's hurt, but he didn't get touches and he was hurt before. It's just running back injuries have plagued the sport for the past year, I would say, and it's kind of concerning, I would
yeah.
say.
Yeah, my thing with that is we had this big discrepancy in the offseason about running backs getting contracts, and this just hurts their cause even more, I'd say. Now that we have, what is it, 3 or 4 like Pro Bowl or Bowl caliber running backs out
Yeah,
after week 2, it's
yeah,
just
And a lot more are hurt too. It's not just them.
and a lot more are hurt. And it's those guys are the main guys, like the main running backs are hurt. Is Henry, is he playing right now or is he
Yeah,
still
Henry's playing, but like people
okay, I
like
thought so.
Jamal Williams and David Montgomery are also out. Like, so it's like kind of concerning a little bit. And I know it's hurting
Yeah,
people's fantasy and they care about that. So
yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, it just stinks. It's just a tough position to be in, especially as a fan because you can't change football. There's got to be football, but you just like running back longevity is such a hard, like it's such a tough, um, you know, tough thing to watch. So I think we're gonna see a lot more of these utility guys. And what I mean by utility guys, I mean running backs, they're kind of like that H back option. And I think a good example of this is Jahmyr Gibbs. He played kind of like it at Alabama. The game that I watched, the Chiefs versus the Lions, he kind of still had that. He's got a lot of explosiveness. He definitely can run that inside zone, but I think when you get him the ball in space, he's dangerous. And I think we're going to see more guys kind of like that mold where they're not necessarily just like a straight up running back, but they can be used in the slot more. And I mean, we're already seeing guys like McCaffrey who are good at catching the ball and playing a little bit of receiver. I think we're just going to see more of that type of mold coming in instead of just a straight on, like, here, run the ball.
yeah, and the thing is, like Chubb got hurt like that, and I'm pretty sure Barkley did too. They're getting hurt when they're running in between the tackles because there's so many
Yeah,
bodies. I mean,
it's
Chubb
just
was just the hit on, but like it didn't help that there was a gajillion people there to where he couldn't move. And I just want to clarify that I've seen some Browns fans. It wasn't a dirty hit. It was a normal football hit. It could have been a little bit low, but I mean, it
on
I think
Chubb.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can't call that intentional or anything. It was just more of a
yeah, I
football
agree.
play. It was just an unfortunate situation, and it looked bad, bro. It looked bad. We'll see how I don't think it's come out how bad it is. We know he's out for the year, maybe longer. But yeah.
Yeah, honestly, ooh, could we see him not play again? I know that that's not a fun possibility to talk about, but uh, if you haven't seen that video, I wouldn't necessarily encourage you to go watch it. But if you have, that's almost exactly how it looked at Georgia, when he got hurt at Georgia. And
I
I just,
forgot about that.
yeah, same leg too, I believe.
Ooh.
And so your body's not supposed to bend like that. Um, and for a guy that's primarily like a heavy up the gut type of running back, that's a scary injury. That's a scary injury for anybody, but this guy is like the best running back in the league, and there's a legitimate chance because of injuries we might not ever see him play again, and it just sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you can sometimes barely hear the audio on networks of the crowd because they mute them. You could hear the sigh of like look
Yeah,
away from when they show the replay. They wouldn't even show it on ESPN. It was that bad, but yeah,
no,
running back injuries it's like occurring a lot more than it has been, and it's kind of a concern, especially with all them one get paid. So I think that's pretty much it on that, and
yeah.
we'll
All
move
right,
into week 3 picks with Thursday Night Football.
time for our picks. So Thursday night football, we got the Niners taking on the Giants in New York, and that's going to be a blowout. I think the Niners are going to win by like 30. Um,
100%.
yeah, I don't, I don't really have too much to say about this one. I think the Niners have come out and honestly, them and Philly, I think the Chiefs will get there. But I think that those two have looked like the best teams, right? Like so far that
Yeah.
we've seen in football.
One thing, I don't know how many I have Sunday tickets so I can watch most games. Thank goodness for me being a student, by the way. YouTube clutched up. But the Giants, I don't know how you can't look any worse in a win. They were
No.
down 20-0 to the Cardinals. Joshua Dobbs is their QB. How do you let them put up 20? They even put up 28 points. Like that, their defense is atrocious. They didn't get one sack, one turner, one nothing against that offense. Me and Zach said at the
Yeah.
beginning of the year it'd be hard for the Cardinals to win a game. They almost did against the Giants, who we thought could maybe be a playoff team. They're
Yeah,
the worst one-on-one team in the NFL. It's not even close. They're gonna get mollywopped, whether it's in San Fran or New York. I forgot to look, but I don't
I
care.
believe I think it's in New York.
Yeah, well, they're still getting mollywopped. It's not gonna be close.
No.
They're getting wiped to the floor. It'd be a lot similar to the Cowboys game. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but they have looked awful, really bad. So that's all I gotta say on that. I
Yeah.
think that pretty much just summarizes the
The
Giants.
Giants are the Giants are the Giants. They're gonna Giants. It is what it is, really.
Yeah. And then moving into our 1 o'clock slates, we got first up Saints versus Packers. We got Andy's team versus the Saints. And I'm sorry, Andy, but I'm going with the Saints because they've played two close games, but I trust Derek Carr and him as a veteran and as a captain to lead them against the Packers, who, I mean, they played all right and they were without Aaron Jones. Jordan Love has
Granted.
looked like decent.
Yeah.
I'd say average NFL
He
QB.
looks like a NFL quarterback,
Yeah,
which is a lot
he's not
better
no Aaron
than
Rodgers though.
it could have been. No. And I didn't expect him to be Rodgers coming into this season. I certainly didn't expect him to like do anything crazy, but he has 6 touchdowns through 2 games. Pretty solid. I don't believe he's thrown in. I think he actually threw one pick against Atlanta. I'm not quite sure. Um, but I picked the Packers. I think they're at home. This is the first home opener. I like our defense. There's some things that need to change. Uh, primarily with the play calling, but I think we have good personnel. Um, and I think Jones is still listed as questionable, but he'll be back. If he's back, I think they win. But looking at the Saints are obviously good. They haven't lost a game yet. Now, granted, it is just going to be week 3, and one of their win. Who they play the first week?
Titans
Titans and the Panthers. That is just like, eh. But then again, Packers played the Bears,
and the
smoked them,
Falcons and
and the
lost.
Falcons, and lost by 1. I'm not too confident in the Packers winning this game, but I picked them. It's if they were playing the Chiefs, I'd probably have to just say, okay, it's the Chiefs and I'd take a loss. But I think they can win against the Saints. Um, and I think it'll be a good game. I'm excited to watch that one. I
Yeah,
also have the Colts versus Ravens. I mean, I got the Ravens in this one. The Colts are without Anthony Richardson. 'Cause
it's
that
not confirmed
concussion.
yet, but it's looking
Oh,
like
it's
it.
not confirmed. It's looking
At,
like
at
it.
least
Okay.
it said questionable when I looked. It may have been
Okay.
upgraded out, but I heard
Either
from
way,
everything I looked, it was questionable. But I don't think he will play, even if he is. I mean, you're
yeah, I think there's not a whole lot to be said about this one. I think the Ravens are the better team, and I think they'll win that game and improve to 3-0.
yeah. Like I said when we talked about Bengals Ravens, the Ravens impressed me. They shocked me offensive wise, at least. I thought they would. I thought they wouldn't play as good on the offensive end, but they had a good game plan for the Bengals, and I think they'll come back out and beat the Colts again. Especially if they're without Anthony Richardson. If they have Anthony Richardson, the Colts have a small chance. But again, I still got the Ravens in this one. I don't think there's really much surprise there, especially after last week.
Yeah.
And this this next game at 1 o'clock is we get two one-on-one teams. Titans, they have Derrick Henry. They got Ryan Tannehill and all that versus the Browns, who are Nick Chubless. But today they signed, or Wednesday they signed
Hunt.
Kareem Hunt. So, and yeah, it was I was kind of like I found that interesting, especially since they kind of didn't re-sign him, and that he was that willing to come back. I guess he just saw, oh, I get running back one like carry, so I'm gonna take that for a year, and then maybe go somewhere else, or maybe even come back. I don't know what's going through him. I got the Titans in this game just because these are two very good running teams, and one team has a top five running back in the NFL, and one has someone that's coming on like 4 day notice. He knew the playbook
Right.
last year, but coaching changes and everything. It may not be exactly the same. I'm and Tannehill and Watson both have not looked the greatest, and so I'm just going with. I know Derrick Henry can run against anyone, so I just assume that he's going to be able to carry that. One thing I'd like to say about the quarterback battle is, I mean, Tannehill bounced back from a week one terrible game, and Deshaun Watson still hasn't really done anything. I mean, even against the Bengals, he didn't have the most impressive stat line. He had a lot of bad throws. Monday night, he turned the ball over 3 times. He was still bad on some throws. I mean, you could say some of it hurt because they lost Chubb when they were going against a good defense, but I need to see more out of him. And I don't know if we will. I really don't.
Yeah, I picked the Browns for this one. I think we'll see I think we'll see them play relatively well. At least Watson wise. He's not the same guy that was at Clemson or in Houston. But I don't believe he's bad,
It's because I
um,
mean he hasn't been the same since he
necessarily.
stopped getting those massages.
Um, he hasn't really done anything. But I think just overall looking at it, I like the Browns in this one. The Steelers have a pretty solid defense. I think the Browns have a pretty solid defense also. Um, so I'm taking this one. I'm taking the Browns at home in this one. Um, I don't really know. It's kind of one of those games that's like it's really a toss up. We'll
It's
just have
probably
to
going to
see
be
when
like
it.
a 17-14. I don't
Yeah,
expect
it's
the offense
not.
to
I
score
don't
that much.
expect a shootout. That might be one of those 6-3 games up there in Cleveland, but we'll see. And then this next one, we were talking about them both earlier. Dolphins versus Broncos at Mile High. I got the Dolphins. I mean, we kind of both spoke on
Both teams
each
really.
of these teams and their struggles already. So we won't really go reiterate all that stuff, but I think the Dolphins are flat out the better team. I think that they win this game and it's gonna be like 14-point win, I'd assume.
Yeah. The only thing I have the Dolphins as well, but the one thing I'm going to say is that we cannot forget Sean Payton is the head coach of this Broncos team. So if anyone could pull him back down from where they're at, I think it's Sean
I
Payton.
agree. I
There's
agree.
he's one of the few coaches that can do that. But I mean, like I said, the team they just didn't look in sync at all on Sunday. I mean, they did for a
No,
half. It's kind of like the Vikings. They need to be consistent a whole game, and they can string some wins together. But until I see that, and the Dolphins, 2 impressive wins. They've looked really good. I think they're gonna be 3-0 after this week. I mean, they've played, they've played a lot better than the Broncos have
I
in
agree.
these 2 weeks. So I got them taking the dub. This next game is a little bit interesting. It's Patriots Jets,
Yeah,
and
AFC East.
it's, I don't like the Jets haven't beat the Patriots in forever. They're saying last year was their year, and then they went 0-2 against the Patriots. And the Patriots have played really well against two great teams, Dolphins, Eagles, both 2-0, and the Jets have Zach Wilson. I mean, I still have faith in the kid that he can improve maybe under a little bit Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers ain't there. He's dealing with Achilles stuff, and he hasn't looked that good. I think he's getting a lot more hate than because I mean he got thrown into a situation he wasn't really preparing for. But even if that's the case, I still got Mac Jones getting the dub game.
Yeah,
He's plays exactly the way Tom Brady did in the early years. He's not as good. He's a game manager, bro. He'll manage a game, and if you give him
right,
an opportunity to win, he'll take it.
right. Yeah, I agree with that. I got the Patriots over the Jets. I think the Patriots are the better team. Their record doesn't show that, but I think this is going to be close. I could see the Jets winning just because I don't know what to make of their week one win. It was kind of weird. Um, they won in overtime against the Bills. Josh Allen played some of the worst football I've seen him play, which he did hold himself accountable for that. But yeah, I got the Patriots. I think they bounce back, and the Jets just continue to struggle.
Yeah.
All right, Bills and Commanders. This one's kind of interesting. I think this is a fun one. I got Washington. I think that they built they're gonna build off of what they did last week. I said earlier, I believe Sam Howell's really coming into form here. Um, and so I just think that that is something be like, oh hey, that's pretty cool. I like to see what they're doing out there. And then um obviously the Bills are a very good team, but I just decided, you know what? I think the Commanders can get the upset here. I think they could be one of those fun teams that's like not supposed to be as good as they are. And also the Bills, I've seen, just maybe you throw week one out the window, but who did they play last week? The Raiders.
And I mean, they won
And
convincingly, so I
they won
mean,
convincingly, but it's also the Raiders who I'm not too hopeful of. Um, so yeah, I got the Commanders in this one.
yeah, one thing I am gonna say is that the Commanders always find a way to be like 8 or 9, 9 and 8, no matter the team. I mean,
Yeah,
they've had Tyler Heineke thrown in the back there for the last 3 years and been a playoff team once or twice. So, yeah, that's that. But I got the Bills because I mean, they bounced back in a pretty solid way, and only on a 6-day notice against the Raiders. I think they had a bad taste in their mouth, and yeah, they surprised me how well they controlled that Raiders game because the Raiders came right out of the gate and scored on the opening drive, and then I know they didn't score for most of the game. I don't know if they got like a last second touchdown, but yeah, Bills were in control most of that game, and I think this game will be closer, but I'm not gonna go against Josh Allen. He had a
yeah,
bad week one, but like we know what type of QB he is. I think it was mostly just week one, so and he's bounced back before and will again. So
yeah.
and then next game up is against the team that I've been doubting these first 2 weeks in the Falcons, who are 2-0 versus the Lions, who are 1-1 after the big win in Kansas City, and then some controversy in Detroit against Seattle.
Last week, yeah.
I got Lions game. I mean, Goff threw an unlucky pick six. Was it holding or not on the final play? You never know. I mean, you just got to move past it. I got the Lions taking this one because I mean I'm still not sold on the Falcons, man. I don't know. I mean they played the Panthers who are 0-2 and the Packers who are 1-1 who have only played against the Bears and the Falcons who we don't. And I don't fully trust me. Desmond Ritter, he had some bad throws, man. That I mean, it wasn't that impressive. They got the weapons to do it. I just don't like the QB. I trust Jared Goff a lot more. I think the defense will bounce back. Yeah, I mean, CJ Gardner Johnson is rumored is out indefinitely, maybe with a torn pec. So I don't know how long that's going to be, but it will be a big loss. But I think they'll be able to still beat the Falcons. And yeah, I think they'll beat the Falcons.
Yeah, I got the Lions also. I just looking across the board, I don't think Atlanta has the firepower to beat Detroit. I think Detroit is a good team, and I think that, you know, say what you want about their win in Kansas City with Kelsey not being there, but hey, still, it's one player, and that was the reigning Super Bowl champs. So, I think Detroit's legit. I don't think Seattle's a bad team either. Who they lost to last week, and it was a close game. It was in overtime, and like you said, there's some controversial calls there. Yeah, I got the Lions. Falcons, they haven't done anything that really moves the needle, and so yeah, I got the Lions. Next up is the Texans versus the Jaguars. this is gonna be an interesting one. Um, so I think on both sides of the ball, you have a solid quarterback. Obviously, Lawrence is better than Stroud at this point, but Stroud threw for like 380 some yards last week, which is absurd. Um,
But you do the.
and
I don't think it may have had to do with the opponent, but
yeah,
that's my Michigan bias. So
yeah.
I'll go out and say I have a Michigan bias against CJ Stroud, but I
Um,
will say this: he's looked the best out of the three of Richardson
yeah,
and Young. He's looked the best.
yeah, I'd agree. Um, so honestly, upset alert again. I got the Texans here. I think they can march into Jacksonville and get a win. Um, I'd be a little more shocked. I if they got like I don't think they're gonna blow them out. I think I'd be shocked if they got blown out by the Jaguars. But the Jaguars, they got a bad taste in their mouth. They lost a relatively close game to Kansas City at home last week. But I'm rolling with CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans on this one.
Yeah. The one thing that the Jaguars struggled with is they kept getting to the red zone. They just couldn't convert. I mean, I
Yeah,
watched numerous times where Trevor Lawrence threw a dot and the receiver couldn't get his feet in. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, they were hard throws, but like most receivers would make that. And
right.
they were like missing it by a hair, and they just need to get that timing down. I think they will bounce back as Texas team because the Texas isn't. I mean, one
It's the
thing that
Texans.
their defense has played awful.
Yeah.
Like they let Gardner Minshew throw around them, even when Richardson got hurt. So that says pretty much all you need to say about that. I mean, CJ Stroud, yeah, he's throwing for a lot of yards. We'll see how he does against real defense. I'm not completely sold on him. That may be a little my bias. I'll admit that, but I'm not sold on CJ Stroud yet, so I'm picking Jaguars in this one. And then the next game we got the Nebraska of the NFL and the Chargers versus the Vikings. I mean, I said it last week. The Chargers, they're like Nebraska in college football. They find a way to lose. Like,
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
shoot themselves
the
in the foot.
Titans looked awful offensively, and they were in a shootout with the Chargers. Like, I don't know what it is. I mean, Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen had a good game, but they didn't win. I mean, I'm seeing all these if uh Justin Herbert had good receivers or was on a different offense, he'd be an MVP. But like everyone thinks he's going to be the greatest of all time if he was on a different team, and that's just not the case. And I'm taking the Vikings just because like the Chargers and the Nebraska NFL, I don't trust them to hold anything right now. They haven't. The last three games they've blew a 27-0 lead in Jacksonville. They lost a shootout to the Dolphins, which yeah, I mean, but the defense didn't play great, and then they made the Titans offense look passing wise at least look outstanding. I'm not really sure about that with Ryan Tannehill back there after he was like 9 for 21 and three picks at one point in New Orleans. But yeah, their defense needs to figure stuff out. So and Vikings, like I said, I think Kirk's a good captain. I think he'll be able to. They've had a long rest too, so I think Vikings come out on top.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with some points. The Chargers haven't really been able to tie it all together for some reason. It doesn't seem that way. Um, they should, I mean, they just haven't. But I think Herbert's a good enough quarterback. I think they've got 2 weeks under the belt. The defense is leaving a lot of question marks. And this is a Vikings team that, I mean, they like on the stat sheet, they played a close game against Philadelphia, who has one of the better defenses in the NFL. Uh, Vikings at home. I'm gonna take the Vikings in this one. I originally had picked the Chargers, but upon thinking of it more, I think they're gonna come into their zone here, especially if they got a weak defense. Jefferson. I mean, we've seen what he can do.
Yeah,
Um, so let's see here. Let me see who else we got.
it's we got Panthers Seahawks, and I mean Panthers 0-2. Bryce Young has looked all right. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the clip of him where he wasn't even lining up at the center. Miles
Yeah, he
Sanders had to
lined up
push him.
under the guard.
Yeah, and Seahawks, they got a pretty impressive win with the controversy of hold or whatever. It's still a win is a win.
Win
And
is a
they
win
got
in
it.
the
They went
league.
to
Yeah.
Detroit after Detroit was real high, beating Kansas City. They got it done. And they bounced back from a week one kind of disappointing game against the Rams. So I got Seahawks beating the Panthers, and I think this should be a no-brainer as the Panthers haven't looked that good.
Yeah, the Panthers haven't done anything. They have stuff to build on. I think that's the main good thing about Carolina right now. This is one of those teams that it's gonna be like week 10 when they win a game. Uh, they're gonna catch someone in an off week, win 2 or 3 games this year. I got Seattle. I think Seattle's a legit playoff team. I think they took a bad loss week 1 to the Rams, I believe. Um, who have 2 wide receivers I've never heard of, and I don't think I can properly pronounce their names, but they're good. They are dogs. Um, and so yeah, I got the Seahawks in this one. Next up, we don't even need to talk about this. We got the Cowboys and the Cardinals.
Yeah.
That I got the Cowboys. I mean, I don't really think that there's much to say. Their defense has looked good this year. Granted, they played the New York teams. I think Dak has looked impressive so far. Let's hope it stays that way, especially against the Cardinals. And I think Dallas and Philadelphia probably have 2 best defenses in the league. I don't see Josh Dobbs decimating a defense led by Micah Parsons. I got the Cowboys.
Yeah. You mentioned it briefly about Josh Dobbs, and I mean, against the defense, the Cowboys defense is like been the best defense in the first 2 weeks. They
Yeah.
looked at. I mean, obviously they played a tremendous game against the Giants. I don't really know what to think of the Jets games yet because of Zach Wilson or not. We'll see about that. But I mean, they still, regardless, it's still pretty impressive. And I mean, like you said, Cardinals. They may have played the Giants close, but
They ended up losing.
the Cowboys beat the Giants by 40 and the Cardinals lost by 3.
Lost.
So
Yeah.
I think that's
I think we'll
where
go though.
we, yeah, Cowboys over Cardinals there. Now this one, Chiefs versus Bears. Um, let me start with Justin Fields. He's not looked that impressive. He really hasn't.
No.
And I don't like all these interviews that are coming out of him blaming the coaches, really. It's kind of
I don't
like
like
this
that
is like
either.
he's not
It's a
being
bad look.
yeah, Kirk Cousins, he's taking accountability. Justin Fields is and then I got Chiefs winning this one. That's all I'm gonna say about really that.
Yeah, Chiefs at home. Kelsey and Mahomes are probably going to decimate that defense. I mean, Jordan Love did. So I wouldn't be shocked. Um, and now with Fields is an interesting position because he's a good athlete. I think he really can throw like we saw at Ohio State when he's got the right conditions. I believe he can be a good quarterback. That's not in Chicago. I think it's time for Chicago to move on. We'll see after this year. I think this is probably like the last real year of this Justin Fields experiment. Um, I think he really just honestly he needs a vet. He needs a veteran quarterback to show him the ropes, um, and how to be a quarterback. I think honestly, as funny as it might sound, I think if you had Fields under a guy like Kirk, who is a pro, he's a veteran, well established in the league, I think I think he can do something. Um, but yeah, I just don't see the Bears winning this game in Arrowhead. And then we got the Steelers and Raiders on Sunday Night Football. This one is going to be interesting. Um, I'm taking Pittsburgh. I think they have a really good defense. Their offense, not so much, but we saw them piece together a couple nice drives against Cleveland. I think they just kind of rinse and repeat. tighten up the offense this game, and I they got to win.
Yeah. What I'll pretty much say on this, it's Steelers defense looked really dominant on Monday night. They impressed me a lot. Raiders got mollywopped by the Bills, as I've said. And I'm gonna take the Steelers because their defense is dominant. I mean, Jimmy G, they can shut him down pretty easily. And Kenny Pickett, he showed he can put some plays together. I think enough to win, not no more than that.
Right.
And they bounced back well, and I agree with you that I got Steelers in this game. Now, Monday Night Football, we got two interesting matchups here. Let's start off with the battle of 2-0s on ABC, Eagles versus Bucks. I mean, this is gonna be Bucks 2-0 against Vikings and Bears, and Eagles 2-0 against Patriots and Vikings as well. So they've had a common opponent. And really the scores have been very similar. So like that's like but one difference. And I mean Eagles went to the Super Bowl last year. They're a lot better team. They had Jalen Hurts versus Baker Mayfield. I think Jalen Hurts wins this game. I think it'll be it'll be close a little bit, but I mean, I think it'll kind of be like the Thursday night football game where the score will be close, but it won't really feel like it most of the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, I got the Eagles going down to Tampa Bay and taking care of business. Baker, he's looked good. Honestly, he has. Now granted, Vikings and Bears, not the two greatest opponents, but winning in the NFL is winning in the NFL, and he's shown he can do that. He's shown he can do it with the Browns, and he's showing right now off the 2-0 start to a Tampa Bay team that after Tom left, I think everybody just kind of threw by the wayside. So
100%.
I, but with that being said, Eagles are still the Eagles. They have the best offensive line in the league. Um, the Bucks defense is shadows of what it once was. So I got the Eagles winning this one, taking it home. And then our final game of the week, our second game of Monday Night Football, we got the Rams in Cincy taking on the Bengals. I think the Bengals win their first game of the year. I think Joe shows he goes and balls out. Um I
Now,
really
before you continue, I just want to say real quick, it's most likely Joe Burrow will play, but there's a small chance he won't play, but I think he will. I
I
mean, because
think
he
he
said
will
he
too.
re-aggravated it, but I think he'll play.
Yeah, I think he'll play. I think they need to get some confidence back to their fans. This is a huge game to do it. Monday Night Football. The country's eyes are going to be on him. So I go Bengals here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I'm a Bengals fan. Well, you always know that I've been watching. This might, I'm not, if we lose this week, I'll be in panic mode if Joe Burrow plays. I get if we lose if Joe Burrow doesn't play, because I mean, our
was it
backup
Trevor
QB is not,
Simeon?
yeah,
Is their
something like,
backup?
I don't
Yeah,
even know. He's just awful. I don't remember if we cut Jake Browning or Trevor Simeon. I really don't. All I know is that Joe Burrow's our starting QB and we need him, especially after being down 0-2. He,
yeah,
I I mean, the Rams' offense has looked good, but when have they not? When they had, I mean, I get last year late in, but they never had a quarterback last year, and their defense is. I mean, Donald's playing, but Ramsey's gone and stuff. So but this is the team the Bengals can win against out of the first three. It's like their easiest. Like look on just feels like
yeah,
on paper. So yeah, I got Bengals taking this one. I'm hoping they take it, and I think the if yeah, I think I hope they win for Houston Nation Cincinnati because I mean last year they started 0-2 and we saw how that turned out. They bounced back going 12-4. But yeah, I I'm taking Bengals over Rams. And that is our week 3 predictions. Like thank you guys for watching to the end. Zach will be back next week. And we may bring back Andy back in the future because I mean he obviously knows what he's talking about. Yeah, except for maybe the about the Texans, but that is what it is. Yeah, I thank you guys for watching. Yeah, we'll see you next Thursday. Peace.